back, my friends. This is the Batman Rick. Just now getting back into the video recording scheme of things or routine. This is the wife and I's spare bedroom. We are christening it the art room. So we have an art table back here. My wife's big into painting and etching glass, and she has a lot of works and does a lot of good stuff. And this gives me a space to have a nice table to spread out and to show some things. This current thing is kind of an opening, if you will, a preview of some very old stuff. Some of it you guys will find familiar, and some of it you may not. I'm going to tell you that you're going to see the boxes, but the contents do not match the exterior of the boxes verbatim, because this is actually quite an extensive collection over the years, especially back when I was in my late teens, early 20s, my bachelor days, where I was spending quite a bit every week at the local game store. And whenever my goal was to spend about $50 a week, and whenever my purchases came up a little short, I would go to the miniature section and select one or two bubbles of this, that, or the other thing that would, fill the niche and kind of bump me up to the $50 mark. And back in the day, it was lead. Everything was lead miniatures. Ralph Partha was the biggest manufacturer of them at the time, but not by any means the only one. There's quite a few different outfits that were making them. Some of the companies commissioned them, and some of them had them made under license. So this is some of that stuff. Big fan of it. Nowadays, I think it's pewter and plastic. I haven't bought any lead miniatures, or miniatures period, in decades. I can honestly say that. I still have some material. This is by means not the entire collection. There's still a few things out in the living room that I'm not really going to mess with today, but there will, at some point, I'll do some stuff on them, because I think it's an interesting sidebar of our hobby. And some players are more invested in these things than others. Back in the day, you couldn't purchase them pre-painted or prepared. They came raw, and it was up to you to do the grunt work, which gave you some advantages, because you could buy the same similar sets repeatedly and then make alterations by paint to create different personas using the same figurines. And for having a wide range of stuff for your table work, it's a good thing. It was always my point to carry basic sets with me whenever I was GMing somewhere, because there's something extra about having a physical map in front of players, and then having tokens or miniatures or something to place on the map brings it even more into the realm of immersion. You're immersing yourself a little easier, and you can enact things that you're trying to describe verbally by placing your character, your little miniatures, in the proper places. The miniatures carried over from the old days of tabletop war games, the miniature wargaming of the era of the previous area, and that goes back quite a few years. I think it's a better part of a century. I'd have to do some research on that to give you any really hard facts, and I'm sure that there's quite a few enthusiasts out there that can give you a far better in-depth idea than I can. So, like I said, this is a visitation, and I was very fortunate in the process of moving several times and spending an extended period of time away from my family's home, my mother and parents' house. A lot of my stuff got put into storage because it wasn't conducive to bring it along. In some cases, I couldn't bring it along. And somehow or another, this box got placed into a Foot Locker. It was in our attic. The attic of my parents' house actually opens off of my bedroom when I was a kid, and for some years my current wife and our daughter lived at my parents', and we turned part of the upstairs into an apartment, and this stuff would have been shoved into the attic for storage. Unfortunately, a lot of my Battletech material got put into a container that got stuck down in the barn for some reason that I can't fathom. There was a point where a lot of the contents, I guess, in the attic needed to be removed so some repairs could be done to some vent system or something like that, but I don't remember. I wasn't present when it happened, and odd, sadly but true, gophers undermined that part of the barn and collapsed the floor. And so in the future, somebody's kids will be digging in the dirt back there and will unearth a lot of Battletech stuff. So I'd probably be quite pleased with it. So there's always that fun thing, right? So look at what we got here. When the West End Games came out, they commissioned a number of, in this case, Grenadier Models were the manufacturing company for these things, and they come in sets. There were a few bubble packs, but for the most part, you bought a box, and I believe the box could vary from just a couple characters and set pieces, depending on their size and the weight of the lead, to 10 average, and they had general themes. So you can see here was a Stormtrooper set, Imperial Forces, Rebel Characters Adventure set, and like I said, I've got right here, I've got Return of the Jedi, and I've got here's the Bounty Hunters, among other things. So when like I said, I collected a number of different character genotypes, if you will, for different game systems, not only for Star Wars, obviously, but for Shadowrun and for Dungeons and Dragons and my fantasy setting games. And the reason I stuck with Shadowrun's characters when they come out, first off, there's some neat additions, and they're futuristic enough that the characters blend real well with Star Wars settings. So they jump ship, so to speak. They actually jump better than Star Wars coming to Shadowrun. I'm just pointing it out. So when we take out the foam and stuff like this, we can see, in this case, a bit of a collection of stuff. So I actually had several attempts at creating miniature armies. This was part of my human collection, and I have an orc collection, an elf, dwarf, and elf collection, or bits and pieces that survived. And you can see some were not completely finished in their painting. We were having a discussion yesterday in one of the videos, a couple videos on the concept of a 10-foot pole and things like pole arms. This is a grand example of why lugging something like a pike around is great if you're at war in large formations, but not so great if you're in a dungeon setting. This particular character, by the looks of it, is a shaman from Shadowrun. This is a wage mage from Shadowrun, but you can see that the style of these things can actually translate really, it kind of gets blurry if I take it too high, I guess, over to the Star Wars setting, which was always a great thing for me, because whenever possible, I like to double down on stuff. Better to be cheap. And it's another Shadowrun mage of some sort. Probably was a mage bubble pack I bought. Evil characters, traditional wizard set there for Shadowrun versus a dungeon there. Here's our version of Gandalf, although I can't honestly say that's a Gandalf. It does kind of look like him though, possibly. This fella here, you probably may or may not recognize him from the original Star Wars Cantina. He's the bartender, right? And here we got what? I'm not sure, some kind of warrior, wrestler, barbarian, sumo wrestler. Hard for me to say which particular one that came from. So, and we got, like I said, they're not all what they say on the box, because I tried to use the boxes are excellent means for storing and transporting these critters when they're left in. Fortunately, the box has been tossed around. Boxes have been tossed around and moved numerous times as part of my human warrior or human army collection. Yeah, all of these, I think, by the looks of them, these I used quite successfully to represent city, town guard, watch. The occasional fighter or paladin might want to pick one of the character, might want to pick one of these as their character representation, and which will always grid and find a dandy about. And we got, now we're getting into some, let's see, that's a Shadowrun. That is, it's either Shadowrun or Star Wars, I'm not 100% sure. I think those are Shadowrun security. That is a Shadowrun character. These might all be Shadowrun. That's an Shadowrun orc. Yeah, Shadowrun dwarf, etc., etc. So, I hope to eventually be able to get myself a small display case to put some of these out for display, because there's, you know, I spend a lot of money. You figure, and we're talking in 1980s, 1990s money, that an average box was about $10. And like I said, you got anywhere from 4 to 10 pieces. Bubble sets could run you anywhere from a couple bucks and up. Not like nowadays, you go in and they're pre-painted. Somebody's done a lot of effort or work, or they've just managed to paint them in the manufacturing process somehow. Not overly sure. Cockatrice. I'm not heavy. Yeah, now these are some of my, these would be rebel soldiers and mercenaries. A Celestian. Let's see, there's a Twi'lek. Yeah, there is a version of a Luke Skywalker, and there's a version of Darth Vader. There is some kind of alien, I am not sure exactly what, and so forth. Yeah, these are mostly Star Wars. That's a rebel snowtrooper from Hoth. Must be from the Hoth set. There is either a really horked off Wookiee, or I'm not sure what that is, to be honest. And there is a regular Chewbacca Wookiee. I don't know where the cover is on that one. And we got a Stormtrooper set, which is not Stormtroopers because I checked it already. Alright, yeah, more of my human army and mounted Yahoos. It's all in that one. And someday, you know, that I like to think, I hate to think about mortality, you know, as we get older. A little bit starts slipping into our brain set just a more. There's more of my human army. And I don't know, one of my kids that are interested in this sort of stuff, they would probably either throw them away or try to sell them. I hope at least if they sell them, somebody who's interested gets them. At some point when I get too old, I might have to make the hard decision just to will them away or give them away or sell them to somebody who appreciates this sort of stuff. It's kind of hard. That feller's missing his hands. We got Imperial Guards. This looks like some more Star Wars. A little bot there. And what is that? Yeah, Death Star Trooper. Oh yeah, mostly Star Wars stuff. Ben Kenobi, Admiral Akbar. All right. Obviously, not the most Osley Canteen set. We can see Jabba the Hutt. See, now this would have been a box. This would have been in a box set, and there would have been him and then about 4 other pieces because of his size. He and the weight of. I think they probably went by the weight factor. So we got here. That is part of a blaster. There's the heavy blaster that goes with it. The Stormtroopers. That one got flattened. That's kind of sad. That must be from. Looks like a rock star from Shadowrun. And now we see a few of my. Here's some of my orc and goblin army mixed in with the stormtroopers. So I guess most of these are bad guys. As a rebel pilot, they've actually handled the storage quite well. I'm impressed. They're in much better shape than my BattleTech, and I will be doing a bit, not today, but in the near future, on what left of my BattleMech collection for BattleTech, which is a appalling shape. Terrible. I don't know if it's any of it's salvageable or not, but it might be. Mixture. These are mostly Shadowrun characters here. Nice motorcycle there. Troll. Oh yeah, good stuff. That's very detailed. These fellers, big, ugly. Was my third favorite. Was playing a troll in Shadowrun. Although I liked playing the trolls outside the box and putting them in career sets that probably didn't make a lot of sense to a whole lot of people. So more of my goblins in here and stormtroopers, some lint and other stuff that came out of the storage. Corporate security here, which works real well with Star Wars. Another Rockstar figure, and as you can see, I had several repeats, and when I bought these on purpose, and I went and painted them just enough difference as much as I could. Some of the paintings kind of and that would have been from my really early days when I had a lot of heart and not so much skill, and I was also under the influence of some things that probably some people today consider not a good thing to be under the influence of anymore, unless you live in, I don't know, Colorado or a couple other states, but not here. So it is, I could do a speech on that, and I'm not going to go off onto a thing other than the fact that while I don't buy into the gateway spiel that the government spun, I do honestly 100% believe that our character influence by substance abuse really deteriorates us based on the individual. Not everybody handles the things the same. I was a functioning, working substance user, and I paid the price that I lost my ambition to do anything productive. And I always convinced myself that I got a raw deal, and I never had the fair blah blah blah. I found a lot of excuses not to be motivated to do things. I'm going to set this guy here for a minute. Just not quite enough room. I'm still working the dynamics out on my camera setting. Out there when a box of stuff. Box came apart. Shows you how old these things are. Like I said, being stored away the way they were protected, and yet they weren't. I mean, there was some issues with mice and other things of that nature. Well, I'll just have to get those here a little later. Be mindful and not step on them. Because I'm telling you, like stepping on a D4, you drop a D4 on your floor and you don't remember to pick it up in the middle of the night. You find it the hard way at the bottom of your foot, and oh boy, you will remember it at that point without a question. Just saying, right? Yeah, more of my mixture of that's good. It's always nice to see old friends. I've seen a lot of play and mileage with these things over the years, and I hope to see some more in the future before I have to worry about figuring out what to do with them when it's time for me to go. Like we all have to make that final journey, that big adventure, or whatever you want to look at it. So there's a big collection, and collectively there's probably $300-400 in here. in old school money. Gosh knows what the heck they would cost these days. You know, I don't know if I would attempt to recollect these things in the like I used to. So I did keep this little feller out for a reason. Not totally sure exactly what lead miniature set this one came out of. You know, Rob, you talk about aliens in the game, or having aliens in a lot of sci-fi. They tend to Star Wars is better at it. Star Trek, not so much about really introducing aliens. But I have a book here I'm going to review next that gave me some eye-opening to that sort of idea. So we'll put him back in the box, and I hope you enjoyed a little bit of seeing this thing. It's nice to show our toys off once in a while. All right. So until next time, game on. Let's see if I can remember which one this is. Now, yeah.